They teased her worn backpack, until the instructor's hands trembled when he noticed the blood seal. The academy on Aurelius Prime was a place of discipline, technology, and pride. Tall silver towers stretched into the sky of the orbital station, gleaming under the artificial sunlight that replicated the warmth of Earth. Inside, cadets hustled through long corridors, carrying the latest equipment, each eager to prove themselves. Among them, Lyra walked quietly, clutching her worn, patched-up backpack. It was not a new backpack. The fabric was faded from countless missions, and the seams had been stitched together multiple times. A few small tears were visible, though carefully patched. On the outside, it looked fragile, ordinary, even pitiful to some eyes. But inside, it held decades of secrets and relics that few could understand. Lyra's peers noticed it immediately. A group of cadets, 3 boys and 2 girls, whispered and giggled as she passed by. "Look at that backpack. Is she carrying scraps in there?" one boy sneered. "Maybe she stores memories instead of tech," another laughed, pointing at the worn straps. Lyra didn't respond. She had learned long ago that reactions fed them. Her eyes were calm, almost serene, and she continued walking as if she had not heard a word. She knew that attention could be dangerous. People underestimated her because they focused only on appearances. The instructor, Commander Ralvek, watched the scene quietly from a distance. He was a tall man with a stern face lined by experience. Most cadets feared him, and his word could make or break careers. He noticed the mocking, but something deeper caught his eye. The emblem on Lyra's backpack. It was subtle. A dried, crimson mark sealed into the fabric, a blood seal, a symbol almost forgotten. His hands trembled slightly as he realized what it meant. The Human Vanguard, a legendary group of explorers who had once charted unclaimed worlds, had used this seal. It was supposed to be lost forever, yet here it was, carried by one seemingly ordinary cadet. Lyra didn't know Ralvek was watching. She had learned to move quietly, blending into the academy's chaos. Yet she carried herself with an unspoken confidence, the kind that came from knowing who you were and what you could do. The mocking cadets didn't notice the subtle shift in the atmosphere. They continued their taunts. "Hey, maybe she keeps snacks for her imaginary friends," one girl said with a grin. "Or a broken star map, look at those straps," another added. The laughter echoed down the corridor, bouncing off metallic walls. For the other cadets, it was amusement, harmless fun. But for Ralvek, every second made his pulse quicken. The blood seal was not just a relic, it was a warning and a promise of something more. Lyra entered the main hall of the academy. Here, the real work began. The hall was filled with cadets, all preparing for the day's drills. Robots scuttled along the walls, delivering supplies, while holographic screens displayed mission briefings. Lyra moved through it all with practiced ease, her backpack tight against her back, its weight a familiar comfort. She arrived at her assigned station, a small console near the center of the hall. Her peers continued their whispers, casting occasional glances at her. One boy tried to bump into her, but she stepped aside so smoothly he stumbled past, looking embarrassed. "Careful there," Lyra said softly, her voice calm but firm. "You might fall if you're not watching." The boy's face flushed. There was something in her tone, a quiet authority that made mockery seem foolish. The others fell silent for a moment, unsure how to respond. Commander Ralvek stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the emblem again. He could feel the weight of history in that small, faded backpack. Few had ever seen it, and even fewer had the right to carry it. The cadets had no idea what lay inside, no idea that the ordinary-looking straps were tied to a legacy of genius, bravery, and cunning that could change the course of history. Lyra's eyes scanned the hall. She observed her peers, noting who was overconfident, who would panic under pressure, and who hid fear behind bravado. Her mind worked quietly, calculating, planning. To the others, she seemed like an unremarkable girl, the kind they could tease and ignore. But Lyra knew better. Appearances were tools, just like any weapon or device. The first drill of the day began, a simple agility test in zero gravity. Cadets floated through the chamber, navigating obstacles with magnetic boots and personal thrusters. Some struggled, bumping into walls, while others floated gracefully. The mocking group looked over at Lyra, smirking. "Watch this," one boy whispered. "She'll probably get stuck on the first platform." Lyra pushed off lightly from the floor. Her movements were precise, almost effortless. She twisted and turned, floating through the obstacles with a calmness that made the others pause. The first platform approached, and she landed perfectly, her backpack snug against her back. The group's smirks faltered. "You're fast," one of the girls admitted, though reluctantly. Lyra didn't respond. Words were useless here, actions spoke louder, and her actions were about to speak volumes. Commander Ralvek observed quietly. Every movement, every slight adjustment in her floating, reminded him of the Vanguard operatives he had only read about in history books. Those explorers had been unparalleled in skill and intellect. And here in this small orbital academy, a descendant, or someone connected to their legacy, was showing the first sparks of that brilliance. The agility test ended. Most cadets were exhausted, their pride dented. Lyra landed gently on the platform, not even breathing heavily. The others stared at her in disbelief. Their teasing had turned into awkward silence. "You move differently," one cadet muttered, almost under his breath. "Like you know something we don't." Lyra gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. She didn't explain. Knowledge of her backpack and its contents was not something to be shared lightly. Some secrets, especially powerful ones, were only revealed when the time was right. The rest of the morning passed in similar fashion. Each drill, each simulation, showed the contrast between skill and mere showmanship. Lyra remained calm, precise, and unshakable. Every time someone tried to provoke her, she responded not with words, but with subtle actions that proved their assumptions wrong. During lunch, she found a quiet corner. She unpacked a small device from her backpack, a compact holographic star map, ancient in design but highly advanced in function. She studied it quietly, tracing routes that had not been charted in decades. The mockers approached again, but this time they hesitated. There was something in her calm, focused demeanor that made them uneasy. Commander Ralvek, still observing, finally approached. His presence was commanding, and the cadets moved aside respectfully. He stopped in front of Lyra, his eyes fixed on the emblem once more. "Lyra," he said, his voice low but firm, "that backpack, it carries more than supplies, doesn't it?" Lyra looked up, her calm expression unchanging. She nodded slightly, not revealing more. Some truths were not meant to be shared lightly. The day continued, and whispers spread throughout the academy. Cadets who had laughed now glanced nervously. There was a new awareness in the air, a recognition that appearances could be deceiving, that underestimated humans could hold hidden power. As the sun set over Aurelius Prime, casting golden light through the station's large observation windows, Lyra stood silently by the hall. Her backpack, worn and patched, looked ordinary to anyone who didn't know its history. But to those who understood, it was a symbol of potential, resilience, and the quiet strength of humanity that refused to be dismissed. And somewhere deep inside the backpack, hidden away from prying eyes, the legacy of the human vanguard waited, ready to reveal itself when the time came. The evening sun cast a golden glow over the orbital station, reflecting off the silver towers and the gleaming metal of Aurelius Prime. The academy, usually noisy and full of activity, had quieted down. Cadets returned to their quarters, discussing the day's drills in hushed voices. But in one corner of the station, Commander Ralvek remained in the main hall, his eyes fixed on Lyra's backpack. The emblem, faint but unmistakable, was more than just decoration. It was the blood seal of the human vanguard, a group of explorers so skilled that entire generations had spoken of them as legends. Many believed the vanguard had disappeared without a trace, their technology lost to time. And yet here it was, carried by a single cadet, seemingly unremarkable in every other way. Ralvek's hands trembled slightly as he approached Lyra. He had served the academy for decades and had trained hundreds of cadets, but this was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The blood seal was a warning, a symbol of intelligence, strategy, and courage that few humans could match. "Lyra," Ralvek said quietly, his voice steady despite the tension he felt, "that emblem, it is not something ordinary. Do you know what it means?" Lyra looked up from her small holographic star map, her calm blue eyes meeting his. She nodded ever so slightly. "I know its history," she said softly. Her voice had a weight that made Ralvek pause. There was no arrogance in her tone, only quiet authority. He studied her carefully. Many cadets would have tried to hide such a legacy, fearing attention or envy. But Lyra, she carried it as if it were a shield and a tool at the same time. He remembered the legends he had read as a boy, the stories of Vanguard operatives who had charted unclaimed worlds, who had survived impossible missions. and who had used cunning and ingenuity to outsmart enemies far stronger than themselves. Could this young cadet truly be connected to them? Lyra's backpack, though worn and patched, was more than just fabric and straps. It was a vessel of legacy, containing relics of the Vanguard's brilliance. Commander Ralvek felt the urge to ask more, to understand exactly what she carried, but he knew better. Such things were revealed only when the right moment came. Patience was as much a weapon as any plasma rifle or shield. The next morning, the Academy called for a special assembly. Cadets gathered in the central chamber, the hum of anticipation filling the room. Ralvek stepped to the front, his expression serious. "Attention," he began. "Today we begin a different kind of exercise. One that will test not only skill, but ingenuity, strategy, and courage." Lyra took her place silently among the cadets, her backpack snug against her shoulders. Around her, whispers spread. Many still remembered the mocking from the previous day, though it had faded into uneasy curiosity. Some cast glances at her, trying to gauge whether she was truly as ordinary as she appeared. The doors opened, revealing the training simulation chamber. It was massive, spanning the length of 3 academy halls. Zero-gravity fields flickered on and off, simulating space environments. Holographic targets and moving obstacles were scattered throughout. The cadets were instructed to navigate the chamber, collect strategic points, and complete tasks designed to test problem-solving skills. As the exercise began, chaos erupted. Cadets floated awkwardly, bumping into walls and obstacles. Some laughed nervously, others cursed under their breath. The training modules were unpredictable, forcing every cadet to think quickly and adapt. Lyra moved with an ease that drew attention. Her movements were deliberate, each push and twist calculated. She anticipated the shifting fields before they changed, dodging obstacles with grace. Her backpack, though small and worn, seemed to be an extension of her body. Every motion was precise, and every decision was intelligent. Ralvek watched closely from the observation deck. He saw the mockers from the previous day struggle, their confidence faltering. One by one, they realized that skill alone would not win this exercise. It required strategy, resourcefulness, and quick thinking, qualities that Lyra displayed effortlessly. At one point, a complex obstacle appeared, a spinning corridor with shifting magnetic fields. Cadets hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. Many floated in confusion, bumping into the walls and losing precious points. Lyra analyzed the situation calmly. She adjusted her backpack, retrieving a small device tucked inside. It extended a holographic interface that calculated the optimal path through the spinning corridor. With minimal effort, she navigated the obstacle flawlessly. A hushed murmur spread among the other cadets. They had never seen technology used like this before. Her backpack, once the subject of ridicule, now seemed magical. Ralvek's mind raced. The devices inside the backpack were decades old, relics of the Vanguard's ingenuity. Yet they functioned as if built yesterday, hidden knowledge preserved across generations. It was not just technology, it was human brilliance, creativity, and resilience preserved in material form. By midday, the exercise escalated. A simulated threat appeared, a rogue AI drone swarm programmed to attack any cadet entering the central hub. Panic rippled through the chamber. Many cadets froze, unsure of how to respond. Alarms blared, lights flashed red, and the drone's mechanical hum filled the air. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She calculated trajectories, anticipated drone behavior, and moved without hesitation. She retrieved a compact control unit from her backpack and connected it to the holographic interface. With a few precise commands, the drones froze mid-flight, then retreated in formation. The cadets stared, stunned by her control. Ralvek descended into the chamber, his hands trembling slightly despite his training. He had seen many cadets succeed, but nothing like this. Lyra had not just survived, she had turned a dangerous situation into an opportunity. The blood seal on her backpack was no longer just a symbol, it was a statement. Humans, underestimated and overlooked, could achieve what machines alone could not. After the exercise, Lyra remained calm, even as her peers crowded around trying to understand how she had done it. They asked questions, some in awe, others in disbelief. Lyra answered sparingly, revealing only enough to teach, not to boast. Her lessons were subtle. Think ahead, use what you have, adapt constantly. The worn backpack, once a mark of scorn, had proven its value. Ralvek finally spoke, his voice loud enough to quiet the room. Today, you all witnessed what happens when skill, intellect, and history combine. Lyra's performance is a reminder that true strength is not always visible on the surface. Never underestimate what a human mind and heart can achieve. The cadets were silent, absorbing the weight of his words. Even the mockers from yesterday looked at Lyra differently now. Respect replaced ridicule, though some still struggled with their pride. As the academy day ended, Lyra returned to her quiet corner. She unpacked the holographic star map again, tracing the paths that the Vanguard had charted decades ago. She knew her journey had only begun. The Blood Seal was not just a legacy, it was a responsibility. Humanity had survived, thrived, and innovated in ways others could not imagine. And now it was up to her to honor that legacy. Ralvek watched from the observation deck as Lyra worked silently. He felt a deep sense of awe and unease. The human vanguard had left their mark in history, but perhaps the greatest mark was yet to come. This young cadet, carrying the emblem of their brilliance, could change the fate of the academy and maybe the fate of humanity itself. The whispers of the cadets continued, but now they spoke with admiration rather than mockery. Lyra, ever composed, ignored them. She focused on her work, on the path ahead, and on the quiet promise of her backpack. Inside, relics of the past waited. Outside, a new future was ready to be shaped by human ingenuity, courage, and resilience. And in that moment, Commander Ralvek understood a truth that would guide his decisions for years to come. Sometimes, the quietest cadet holds the loudest potential. The day after the special assembly, the Academy's corridors buzzed with tension. Cadets moved quickly, practicing maneuvers, checking their equipment, and exchanging nervous whispers. The events of the previous day had spread throughout the station. Everyone knew Lyra had demonstrated skill and intelligence far beyond her years. The mockery had vanished, replaced by curiosity, awe, and a little fear. Lyra walked calmly through the hallways, her backpack firmly on her shoulders. She had no desire for attention, and she carried herself with quiet confidence. Yet she could feel the eyes of others watching her. Some admired her, some doubted her, and others envied her. She ignored them all, focusing on her mission. The exercise today would test more than just agility or reflexes. Commander Ralvek had designed a complex training simulation unlike any the cadets had ever faced. The exercise was meant to challenge not only physical ability, but also critical thinking, teamwork, and resourcefulness. The Academy's AI systems had created a series of unpredictable obstacles, traps, and enemy simulations. The cadets would need every ounce of intelligence and courage to succeed. The cadets gathered in the central training chamber. The room was massive, its walls lined with holographic projectors and magnetic stabilizers. The floor shifted subtly beneath their feet, and artificial gravity pulsed irregularly. Holographic drones hovered in the corners, scanning for movement. Lyra stepped forward with ease, adjusting her backpack and checking her equipment. As the instructor initiated the simulation, the room transformed. Walls moved, platforms shifted, and new obstacles appeared at random intervals. The cadets were forced to navigate a maze of floating platforms, rotating corridors, and simulated hazards. Panic quickly set in for some, while others relied purely on reflexes. Lyra, however, remained composed. Her eyes scanned the room, noting patterns and predicting movements. She moved deliberately, making careful choices that allowed her to avoid hazards and gain points efficiently. Her backpack, though worn, contained tools that made her advantage subtle but unmistakable. Small holographic projectors helped her map the shifting corridors. Compact stabilizers allowed her to move precisely in zero-gravity sections. Every item she used was a relic of the human vanguard, preserved for decades yet still functional. The other cadets struggled. One boy spun out of control in a zero-gravity tunnel, bumping into walls and losing valuable points. A girl panicked when a simulated energy field blocked her path, freezing in place while alarms blared. Lyra observed them but did not intervene immediately. She knew that the lesson was not just about winning, it was about understanding, strategy, and perseverance. The first major challenge appeared, a series of moving platforms over a simulated void. Cadets had to jump, push off walls, and time their movements perfectly to avoid falling. Several fell, caught off guard by the irregular rhythm of the platforms. Lyra calculated the timing instantly, pushing off with precision, her backpack providing balance and support. She landed safely each time, her movements smooth and controlled. Commander Ralvek watched from above. His hands trembled slightly as he noted her mastery. He had trained cadets for decades, yet Lyra's composure and skill reminded him of stories he had read about the Vanguard operatives. Those were humans who had faced the unknown with courage and creativity. And here in this academy, one of their descendants, or someone connected to their legacy, was demonstrating the same brilliance. The simulation grew more complex. Holographic drones activated in swarms, their movements unpredictable. They pursued cadets, requiring evasive maneuvers and quick thinking. Most cadets panicked, scattering in different directions, colliding with walls and obstacles. Lyra, however, moved with a calm determination. She retrieved a small device from her backpack, a relic interface capable of analyzing drone patterns. Within moments, she predicted their paths, dodging their attacks and guiding herself efficiently through the chamber. Some cadets stared in awe. "How is she doing that?" whispered one, barely able to keep up. She must have seen this before," another said, disbelief evident in her voice. Lyra remained silent, focusing on the task. She had learned that questions and comments were distractions. Every decision mattered, and one mistake could cost valuable points. Her mind worked like a machine, observing, calculating, and adapting. Midway through the exercise, a sudden challenge appeared, a collapsing section of the chamber. Platforms began to fall, leaving gaps that seemed impossible to cross. Cadets froze, unsure how to proceed. Some shouted, others panicked, trying to find solid ground. Lyra analyzed the situation. She adjusted her backpack, pulling out a compact grappling device. With precise timing, she fired a tether to the nearest stable platform and swung across the gaps. She moved fluidly from platform to platform, her backpack providing tools and balance. Cadets watched her in amazement, realizing that what they had mocked yesterday was now their only hope of understanding how to succeed. Commander Ralvek's thoughts raced. He had known that Lyra was special, but seeing her in action confirmed it. The blood seal on her backpack was not just a symbol of heritage, it was a testament to human ingenuity. Lyra was proving that humans could adapt and overcome challenges that even advanced AI could not predict. The final phase of the simulation arrived, a central control hub with a series of locked doors and security systems. Cadets had to access the hub, deactivate the security measures, and complete the mission. Most approached cautiously, hesitant to make mistakes. Lyra moved confidently, analyzing each lock and obstacle. She opened a small compartment on her backpack, revealing a relic device that interfaced with the hub systems. Within moments, she bypassed the first locks, then the second, her fingers moving with speed and precision. The cadets watched, some silently cheering, others stunned into silence. Lyra's calm authority turned the impossible task into a manageable challenge. Ralvek descended to the chamber floor as Lyra completed the final sequences. His hands still trembled, but his eyes were filled with respect. He approached her carefully, acknowledging the effort and skill she had demonstrated. "Lyra," he said, his voice steady but full of awe, "what you just did, it is remarkable. Few humans, even among the Vanguard, could execute with such precision. You've proven more than skill. You've proven strategy, patience, and intelligence." Lyra looked at him, her calm expression unchanged. "I only did what was necessary," she said softly. "The challenge required understanding, not force. I used what I had, the tools and knowledge available to me." Ralvek nodded. He understood. Humanity had always thrived not by relying on strength alone, but by using creativity, resilience, and intellect. Lyra embodied that principle perfectly. The other cadets, who had once mocked her backpack and doubted her, now approached with caution and respect. Some asked questions about the devices she had used, others about her strategy. Lyra answered them patiently, teaching without arrogance, showing them that even ordinary humans could achieve extraordinary things when they used their minds and hearts. By the end of the day, the Academy had learned a profound lesson. Appearances could be deceiving. The worn, patched-up backpack that had once drawn ridicule was now a symbol of capability, legacy, and human brilliance. As Lyra returned to her quiet corner, she unpacked the holographic star map once again. She traced routes that had been forgotten for decades, planning her next steps carefully. The Vanguard's legacy was not just history, it was a tool, a guide, and a responsibility. Lyra understood that her journey had only begun, and that the challenges ahead would test not just her skill, but her courage and resolve. Commander Ralvek watched from the observation deck one last time. He realized that the Academy, the cadets, and perhaps even humanity were witnessing the beginning of something extraordinary. Lyra's calm intelligence, her mastery of tools and strategy, and the hidden legacy of the Vanguard would shape the future in ways no one could yet predict. And in that quiet moment, Lyra, with her worn backpack and calm determination, became a symbol of what humans could achieve when underestimated, overlooked, and pushed to their limits. The day began with a sudden alarm. Red lights flashed across Aurelius Prime's academy, accompanied by a blaring siren that shook the corridors. Cadets scrambled in confusion, their usual drills replaced by urgent chaos. Over the intercom, Commander Ralvek's calm, commanding voice filled the halls. Attention! Unauthorized AI drones have breached the central hub. All cadets must report to their stations immediately. This is a critical emergency. Lyra froze for only a moment. The blood seal on her worn backpack seemed to pulse under the dim red light, as if responding to the urgency. Unlike many cadets who panicked, she remained calm, assessing the situation. Her mind moved quickly, calculating the risks and the paths she needed to take. The central hub was the brain of the academy, a high-security area controlling life support systems, training modules, and data archives. If the rogue AI drones reached it, the consequences could be catastrophic. Cadets attempted to move in formation, but confusion reigned. Many hesitated, unsure of the drones' speed or tactics. Lyra pushed off from the wall with a controlled motion, navigating through the chaos. Her backpack, patched and worn, was no ordinary pack. Inside lay relics of the human vanguard, ancient tools designed for emergencies and situations beyond normal training. With a calm, precise movement, she retrieved a compact control module and activated its holographic interface. The interface lit up, projecting the positions of the rogue drones in real time. Lyra traced their movements carefully. The drones were adaptive, learning from each cadet's actions. Most of her peers froze, overwhelmed by the unpredictability, but Lyra had studied patterns. She had learned to anticipate, to think ahead, and to act decisively. Commander Ralvek arrived at the hub shortly after, observing the scene with growing concern. He saw the cadets struggling, their panic spreading like wildfire. But Lyra moved through them effortlessly, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos. He felt a surge of hope and fear. The blood seal she carried was not just a relic of history, it was a key to survival in moments like this. Lyra reached a cluster of drones near the main control panel. Most cadets would have panicked, retreating to safe positions. She did not. With steady hands, she connected her control module to the system. The device hummed softly, a signal of connection and interface. Within moments, she accessed a protocol embedded in the Academy's systems, ancient codes left behind by the human vanguard. The cadets watched in awe as the drones began to slow, their coordinated movements disrupted. Some swiveled in confusion, others hovered, unsure of their next target. Lyra's fingers flew over the module, guiding the drones into a formation that neutralized their own attack pattern. Commander Ralvek stepped closer, his hands trembling slightly. He had seen many cadets succeed under pressure, but never like this. The blood seal on Lyra's backpack was not a simple emblem. It was proof of her connection to a legacy of intelligence, courage, and creativity. Lyra, he said, his voice both urgent and respectful, that pack, it holds more than you know. Can you control the drones? Lyra nodded slightly. I can guide them, but I need the right sequence. The protocol in my pack was designed for this type of situation. It's the Vanguard's emergency measure. The cadets hesitated, unsure what she meant. But before anyone could question her, the drones began moving under her control. Lyra directed them in intricate patterns, turning their own programming against them. With precision, she forced the swarm to isolate themselves in a containment zone, neutralizing the threat without destroying the units entirely. One cadet whispered in disbelief, How is she doing that? She's using her pack, another replied. That old thing isn't just a backpack, it's like a weapon. Lyra's calm expression did not change. To her, this was not about showing off. It was about survival, strategy, and using the tools available to protect her fellow cadets and the academy. Once the drones were contained, the alarms stopped and the red lights dimmed. Silence filled the hub. The cadets looked around, some shaking, others staring in awe. The mockers from before approached cautiously, their pride replaced by respect. Ralvik studied Lyra carefully. "You've done more than anyone expected," he said. "The Vanguard designed their tools to be used in moments like this, and you've honored their legacy perfectly." Lyra lowered her module and repacked it carefully. She looked around at her peers, many of whom were still processing what had happened. "It's not about the pack," she said softly. "It's about using what we have, thinking ahead, and staying calm under pressure. The tools help, but the mind is the greatest weapon of all." The cadets nodded slowly, understanding dawning in their eyes. Today, the worn, mocked backpack had transformed from a symbol of weakness into a symbol of hope and capability. The blood seal, once overlooked, had become a mark of wisdom and resilience. Ralvik placed a firm hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You have reminded us all why humans are remarkable. Even in the face of advanced machines and unpredictable danger, we adapt, we survive, and we thrive. That is the essence of humanity." Lyra's eyes met his. She felt the weight of the Vanguard's legacy, but also a quiet determination. This was only the beginning. The rogue drones were a reminder that challenges would come, sometimes from unexpected places. But humans, she thought, were never powerless. Adaptability, intelligence, and courage were tools more powerful than any weapon. The rest of the cadets approached, some offering quiet congratulations, others asking questions about the tools and strategies she had used. Lyra answered with patience, teaching without arrogance. She knew that knowledge shared wisely strengthened everyone, and that leadership was not about dominance but about guidance. By the end of the day, the Academy had witnessed something extraordinary. The event became a lesson etched into their memory. Appearances can deceive, but intelligence, courage, and ingenuity cannot. A worn backpack, once mocked, had become a symbol of the enduring power of human ingenuity. That night, Lyra returned to her corner in the Academy's dormitory. She carefully opened her backpack, examining each relic and device she had used. Each item had a story, a purpose, and a history. They were tools of survival, innovation, and foresight, preserved by the Vanguard for the moment they would be needed most. Ralvik watched from the observation deck, feeling a mixture of awe and apprehension. Lyra's abilities were extraordinary, but he also understood the responsibility she carried. Humanity's legacy, intelligence, and survival depended not just on technology, but on those who could wield it wisely. Lyra had proven she was one such person. In the quiet of her room, Lyra traced her fingers over the blood seal. It was more than a symbol, it was a promise. A promise to honor the past, to protect the present, and to prepare for the future. She knew that more challenges would come, more tests of skill and character. But she was ready. Outside the observation window, Aurelius Prime gleamed in the artificial sunlight. The station was safe for now, but the universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of unknown dangers. Yet humanity, she realized, was never powerless. Creativity, intelligence, and courage would always turn the tide. And in that moment, Lyra understood the truth of the human Vanguard's legacy. It was not just about survival. It was about rising to the challenge, about proving that humans, no matter how underestimated, could overcome anything. The blood seal on her backpack, once ignored, now represented the enduring brilliance of humanity. And Lyra, calm and determined, would carry that legacy forward, one challenge at a time. The Academy was alive with energy the morning after the rogue drone incident. Cadets spoke in hushed but excited tones, recounting the events from the previous day. Many had witnessed Lyra's actions firsthand, and the atmosphere was electric with awe and curiosity. Those who had mocked her backpack were quiet now, replaced by cautious respect and lingering disbelief. Lyra moved through the hallways as usual, her worn backpack snug against her shoulders. She did not seek attention, but she noticed the glances from her peers. There were whispers of admiration, some hesitant smiles, and a few nods of acknowledgement. She ignored them and focused on the tasks ahead. Today was not about pride. It was about learning, growing, and preparing for whatever came next. Commander Ralvik approached her quietly. His usual stern expression was softened by a rare smile. "Lyra," he said, "you've shown the Academy something extraordinary. What you did yesterday, it is beyond anything we expected." Lyra looked up at him, calm and composed. "I did what I had to do," she replied softly. "The pack contains tools, yes, but it is humans who decide how to use them. That is what matters. Ralvik nodded, understanding. Humanity's strength had never been in technology alone, but in creativity, courage, and ingenuity. Lyra embodied that truth more clearly than anyone he had ever known. The day's training session began with a new exercise designed to test teamwork and strategy. Cadets were placed in groups, tasked with navigating complex simulations that combined zero-gravity maneuvers, obstacle courses, and tactical decision-making. Many cadets were nervous, still shaken by the previous day's events, but Lyra's calm presence had a grounding effect. Her group included some of the cadets who had mocked her, as well as others who had quietly observed her skills. Together, they faced the first challenge, a labyrinth of shifting platforms and simulated hazards. Most cadets hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Lyra, however, immediately took charge, not with authority but with quiet guidance. "Observe the pattern of movement," she instructed softly. "Don't rush, use timing and anticipation. Each step matters." Her teammates followed her lead, trusting her judgment. They moved through the labyrinth with more precision than any previous group had achieved. The mockers from yesterday, now working alongside her, began to understand that strength and skill were not just about speed or confidence. They were about thought, adaptation, and patience. Commander Ralvik observed from above, noting the transformation. Lyra was not only skilled herself, but she inspired others to rise to the occasion. That, he realized, was the essence of leadership, guiding, teaching, and helping others discover their potential. The next phase of the exercise involved a simulated threat, a swarm of AI drones programmed to respond unpredictably. Most cadets panicked, scattering in different directions, but Lyra remained calm. She assessed the swarm, then pulled a small device from her backpack, a relic interface connected to the Vanguard's protocols. With precise movements, she guided the drones' patterns, neutralizing the threat while keeping her group safe. Her teammates watched in awe, some struggling to comprehend the control she had achieved. The mockers, in particular, were humbled. They had once dismissed her as weak, but now they could see the depth of her intelligence and courage. Ralvik descended into the chamber, walking among the cadets. He saw the admiration in their eyes, the respect in their gestures, and he felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity, he thought, had an extraordinary gift, the ability to adapt, to think, and to overcome challenges that even advanced machines could not anticipate. Lyra was living proof of that gift. After the exercise, the cadets gathered for a debriefing. Ralvik spoke, his voice carrying authority and reverence. "Today, you witnessed something important. You saw that appearances can deceive. You saw that intelligence, creativity, and courage are the greatest tools humans have. Lyra has reminded us all of what we are capable of." Lyra stood quietly, listening as her peers murmured agreements. She did not seek praise, but she allowed herself a small smile. The journey had been difficult, but she understood that every lesson, every challenge, was shaping not only her own skills but the future of the academy. Later, in a quiet corner of the academy, Lyra unpacked her worn backpack. She carefully examined the relic devices inside, the holographic map, the control module, and other tools left by the human vanguard. Each item had a story, a purpose, and a legacy. She traced her fingers over the blood seal, feeling the weight of responsibility. These were not just tools, they were a promise to honor the past and protect the future. Ralvik approached once more, standing silently beside her. "Lyra," he said, "the Academy owes you more than you realize. You've changed how we view human potential. You've shown that even when overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed, humans can achieve the extraordinary." Lyra nodded. "It is not about recognition," she said softly. "It is about doing what must be done and helping others see that they can do it too." Outside the academy, Aurelius Prime gleamed in the artificial sunlight. The station had survived the rogue drones, and its cadets had grown stronger, wiser, and more united. The world beyond was vast and unpredictable, full of unknown threats and opportunities. Yet Lyra, with her calm intelligence and the Vanguard's legacy at her back, felt ready to face anything. The cadets who had once mocked her approached her quietly. "Lyra," one said, we underestimated you. Your backpack, your skills, you're incredible." Lyra smiled gently, a quiet warmth in her eyes. "Thank you, but remember, it's not just me. We all have the ability to rise to the challenge if we remain calm, think ahead, and work together." Her words resonated deeply. The mockers had learned humility, the observers had learned respect. and the Academy as a whole had learned a vital lesson. Human potential was limitless when nurtured with intelligence, courage, and perseverance. Commander Ralvek called an assembly that evening. Cadets gathered in the central hall, and he spoke with authority and reverence. Lyra has reminded us that strength is not only in weapons, speed, or technology. True strength is in the mind, the heart, and the willingness to rise above fear and doubt. Humanity has always thrived because of these qualities. Lyra's actions honor that legacy. The cadets erupted in applause, a rare moment of unity and admiration. Lyra stood quietly at the side, accepting the respect but remaining humble. Her worn backpack, once a symbol of ridicule, had become a beacon of human ingenuity, resilience, and hope. That night, Lyra sat by the observation window, gazing out at the vastness of space. The stars twinkled like distant promises, each one a reminder of the unknown challenges that awaited humanity. Yet she felt confident. Humans had a unique gift, the ability to think, adapt, and overcome. And she, carrying the legacy of the Vanguard, would continue to embody that gift. Ralvek joined her silently, looking at the same stars. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "The Academy, the cadets, and perhaps the future of humanity itself." Lyra nodded, her calm eyes reflecting the starlight. "It is only the beginning," she said. "The universe is vast and there will be many challenges, but humans will always rise. That is what makes us strong." The Academy, once a place of mockery and doubt, had transformed. Cadets worked together, inspired by the quiet strength of one remarkable young woman and the lessons she had imparted. The legacy of the human vanguard, once thought lost, had been reborn in Lyra's hands. And as Aurelius Prime rotated silently through the void of space, a single truth became clear. Underestimated humans could achieve greatness beyond imagination. Lyra's worn backpack, once a target of ridicule, now represented the enduring brilliance of humanity, courage, intelligence, adaptability, and hope. Lyra closed her backpack carefully, placing it beside her. It had been a tool, a guide, and a symbol. She had used it wisely, not for pride, but to protect, teach, and inspire. And in doing so, she had proven what Commander Ralvek had realized all along. Humanity's true strength lay not in what we build, but in how we think, adapt, and rise to every challenge. And so, with calm determination, Lyra prepared for the next day, the next mission, and the next challenge. The universe was vast and full of unknown dangers, but she knew that humans, clever, brave, and resilient, would always find a way. And she, carrying the legacy of the human vanguard, would lead the way.